3 stories. 1 is a lie. A patient lost to the sea. A hotel room erased from existence. And a song that drowns the living. 2 are real. 1 is a crafted illusion. Will you uncover the false thread? This is the hidden third. Ashbrook Island lies off the coast of Maine, a jagged slip of land battered by winds and salt. Its lighthouse, Ashbrook Light, was once a vital beacon for sailors threading the icy waters. Now it's abandoned, its windows shattered, its tower leaning slightly against time and weather. The lighthouse's final keeper was Elias Granger, a war veteran with no family, no attachments, and no complaints. In March of 1951, just before the lighthouse was scheduled for full decommissioning, something strange happened. A government transport ship docked at Ashbrook. They brought with them a patient. No records. No explanation. A man strapped tightly to a stretcher, blindfolded, wrists and ankles bound in iron shackles. According to the fragments of Granger's journal, found years later in the ruins of the keeper's quarters, the man never spoke. Never made a sound. Granger referred to him only as the guest, noting that he was to be fed but never approached, watered but never unchained. It didn't take long for things to go wrong. Granger wrote that electrical devices began failing almost immediately. His radio, his lanterns, even his backup batteries, all dead within days. Compass needles spun aimlessly. The air itself seemed charged, heavy, almost buzzing. He heard sounds too. Whispering under the floorboards. The creak of the cellar door at night. The smell of salt water grew overpowering, even when the wind was blowing from the land. Still, every morning, the chains were checked. Still fastened. Still blindfolded. Still silent. One night, in the midst of a storm, Granger woke to find the cellar door wide open. He grabbed his lantern, one of the few still flickering, and descended the stairs. The guest was gone. Panic gripped him. He scoured the lighthouse from top to bottom, calling out, but received no answer. No footprints in the dust. No marks in the mud. Hours later, just before dawn, Granger stumbled outside and found the guest standing at the very edge of the cliffs. Still shackled. Still blindfolded. Facing the roiling sea. Granger's journal describes him standing there, frozen, unable to move closer. Something about the figure, how the wind seemed to bend around him, how the sea foam rose but never touched him, filled Granger with a terror he could not describe. He retreated to the lighthouse and locked himself inside. It was the last journal entry. When the Coast Guard arrived weeks later to officially close the station, they found the lighthouse empty. No sign of Granger. No sign of the guest. Down in the cellar, they discovered something else, a perfect spiral, burned deep into the stone floor. Salt crystals glittered in the cracks. Thick, black barnacles clung to the ceiling overhead. And left neatly on the top stair was Granger's journal, wrapped carefully in a piece of oilcloth. Paranormal investigators have visited Ashbrook Island dozens of times over the decades. Most don't stay overnight. Those who do report hearing footsteps circling the tower at night. Some claim to hear chains dragging across the rocks. In 2007, a team from a Boston university brought specialized recording equipment to the island. Using hydrophones, sensitive underwater microphones, they picked up a sound emanating from the rocks below the lighthouse. It wasn't natural. Not whales. Not water. It was chanting. A slow, pulsing chorus of voices, too low for human ears to catch without assistance, repeating every 17 seconds. Coincidentally, or perhaps not, 17 seconds is exactly the rotation time for Ashbrook Light's now dormant beacon. The light itself hasn't been operational since 1951, yet sometimes, sailors at sea report seeing a faint, sickly beam sweeping the waves. In 2014, local diver Sam Barrett was exploring a shipwreck half a mile offshore when he discovered something chilling, a rusted manacle snagged in the wreck's railings, with lengths of chain dragging into the deep. Inside the wreck, sealed in a watertight compartment, he found something else, a folded, salt-stained blindfold stitched crudely with black hair. Sam turned his findings over to the local sheriff's office. 3 nights later, he vanished. His boat was discovered drifting near Ashbrook Island, engine still running. His dive gear was untouched. On the dashboard, police found a waterproof notebook open to a single page. The message was scrawled in trembling handwriting. "He's waiting for me. On the rocks." No trace of Sam Barrett was ever found. To this day, locals swear they sometimes see a figure standing at the cliff's edge near Ashbrook Light, blindfolded, chains dragging behind him. Still waiting. Still watching. Still bound by something older and deeper than the sea itself. In downtown Savannah, Georgia, there's an aging hotel known simply as the Marlowe. Once a grand landmark in the 1930s, today it sits slightly out of place, its ornate facade weathered, its velvet carpets faded, but somehow still clinging to life. It's not the worst place to stay, but locals will warn you, never ask for room 239. The Marlowe's management quietly sealed it off years ago. The brass numbers were removed, the door painted to match the wall. If you didn't know where to look, you'd walk right past it. But the stories remain. They say it started in 1964, when a traveling salesman named Gerald Price checked in for a 3-night stay. Gerald was described as unremarkable, gray suit, cheap luggage, a man lost in the shuffle of life. On his second night, hotel staff received a call from his room at 2:39 a.m. The night clerk, Marjorie Ellis, answered and heard only static, and something else, a soft whispering in the background. At first, she thought it was a prank. But the call came again. And again. Same static. Same soft, unintelligible murmurs. When security finally entered room 239, they found it empty. Gerald's belongings were still there, his suitcase, his shoes neatly placed by the bed, but no sign of the man himself. The bathroom mirror was shattered inward, as if something had come through it, not into it. Gerald was never found. He became another missing persons case in a city full of them. But that was just the beginning. Over the next 2 decades, whenever the hotel tried to reopen room 239, something strange would happen. In 1971, a young couple on their honeymoon was mistakenly given the key. They lasted until midnight. Other guests reported hearing screams and frantic banging on the walls. When staff broke down the door the next morning, the couple was gone. Only their suitcases remained, sitting upright on the bed, their contents untouched. No footprints. No struggle. Just the faint smell of burnt hair lingering in the room. After that, the Marlowe permanently sealed room 239, padlocking it from the inside and outside, the doorframe plastered over to erase its existence. Still, guests on the second floor began to complain. They'd hear a phone ringing endlessly behind the wall. Or worse, knocking. A slow, steady knock, every night at exactly 2:39 a.m. One woman reported seeing a door in her dreams, a door identical to the one outside her room, opening just a crack, a pale hand reaching out. She woke up screaming, only to find scratches down the inside of her hotel room door, as if someone, or something, had tried to claw its way in. In 1988, a local television crew tried to capitalize on the legend. They offered the hotel money for permission to film an overnight documentary inside room 239. The footage was never aired. Crew members later described losing hours of time inside the room. The clocks malfunctioned. Batteries drained. Some claimed they heard their own names whispered from the vents. One cameraman, Daniel Reese, disappeared during the shoot. His last known recording was a jerky, disjointed clip of a hallway, impossibly long and curving in ways no building should. At the end of it, a door marked 239. The footage ends there. The Marlowe eventually went back to pretending room 239 never existed. Today, they tell guests the missing room is for storage or under renovation. But locals know better. An Uber driver named Claudia Perez swore she picked up a man at the Marlowe in 2022, mid-40s, gray suit, cheap luggage, who asked to be driven to the old shipyards on the outskirts of town. Halfway there, Claudia said she glanced in the rearview mirror, and the back seat was empty. The car door had never opened. All that remained was a faint scent of burnt hair, and a folded note on the seat that simply read, Room 239. The Marlowe still operates quietly today. Tourists come and go. Laughter echoes from the bar downstairs. Life continues. But sometimes, at exactly 2:39 a.m., the staff hear a soft knocking from behind the painted-over wall. And the front desk phone will ring, just once. No one ever answers. Because at the Marlowe, some doors are better left closed. And some guests never check out. In the northern stretch of Vermont, there is a small glacial lake called Belden Hollow. It doesn't appear on most maps. No marked trails lead there. Locals say that's by design. In the 1920s, Belden Hollow was home to a small village, a sawmill town that lived and died by the timber trade. But in 1927, record rains flooded the valley. The river swelled, and by nightfall, the entire village was swallowed by the rising waters. Dozens of bodies were never recovered. Homes, shops, and even the old church, all vanished beneath the newly formed lake. The government wrote it off as an accident of nature. They warned fishermen to stay away. But by the 1940s, strange rumors began to spread. It started with the music. Campers reported hearing faint singing rising from the lake's surface just after sunset. No lyrics. No clear voices. Just a low, rhythmic humming that seemed to float over the water. At first, people assumed it was the wind, or tricks of the mind. But when seasoned outdoorsmen, loggers and hunters, began refusing to camp near Belden Hollow, the stories gained weight. In 1952, a group of college students from Burlington set out to test the legend. They pitched camp on the northern bank and waited for nightfall. At exactly 9:13 p.m., the humming began. Faint at first, like bees murmuring in a jar. Then louder. More structured. Harmonized. One of the students, a music major named Frances Wells, grabbed a tape recorder. She captured nearly 3 minutes of the sound before panic set in. The others watched, horrified, as the surface of the lake began to ripple, not outward, but inward, pulling toward a single dark point near the center. Shapes began to surface. Not fish. Not debris. Houses. The students described rooftops pushing just inches above the water, waterlogged chimneys coughing up bubbles. And then came the figures, half seen, pale forms standing atop the roofs, arms raised, mouths open in silent song. They fled before dawn, leaving their gear behind. Frances' recording was later analyzed by university professors. The sound was confirmed as real, but no known natural phenomenon could explain it. The tape itself was later lost under mysterious circumstances, Frances claimed someone broke into her apartment, stole the tape, and left everything else untouched. In the 1970s, Belden Hollow gained a new layer to its legend. Locals began reporting drownings, not during swims, but while standing on the shore. Victims would wade in ankle-deep, drawn by something unseen, and suddenly vanish beneath the surface without a sound. No thrashing. No screams. As if yanked straight down. The bodies, when recovered days later, showed no signs of injury. No water in the lungs. Just expressions of pure terror frozen on their faces. An investigation was launched in 1981. Geologists tested the lake bed. No sudden drop-offs. No sinkholes. No strange currents. Officials quietly closed the case. Some say the lake itself is cursed. Others whisper that the village beneath never truly died, that the souls trapped there are still trying to sing their way free. In 1997, a hiker named Philip Marr documented his night at Belden Hollow in a series of unsettling diary entries. His last entry reads, "It's beautiful. The singing is so beautiful. I can almost make out the words now. They're calling. I think they know my name." Philip was never seen again. His diary was found weighted with stones near the lakeshore. Today, Belden Hollow remains unmarked on tourist maps. Locals tell outsiders it's just a marsh. Nothing interesting. Better fishing elsewhere. But sometimes, when the mist rolls low and the moon is thin, those who live nearby claim you can hear it, the faint, irresistible melody weaving through the pines. They say if you listen too long, you'll feel a tug, not at your body, but at your mind. A suggestion. A call. Fishermen report losing hours by the lakeside, hypnotized by something they can't remember afterward. Campers awaken to find footprints circling their tents, pressed deep into the mud, bare footprints, dripping lake water, heading toward the trees. In 2021, drone footage captured an odd sight at dawn, a perfect spiral of ripples in the center of Belden Hollow, expanding outward despite there being no wind, no boats, no animals in sight. The drone itself malfunctioned seconds later, dropping into the water. When divers recovered it, the footage had been corrupted. Only one frame remained, a blurred image of a drowned steeple, and dozens of pale faces turned upward toward the camera, mouths wide open. They say that some songs are too beautiful to resist. And some songs were never meant for human ears. You just listened to 3 new stories. But before we move on, let's go back. Remember the 3 from last episode? Which one did you think was the fake? Was it the surgeon with a hidden room of horrors beneath the prison? The cursed painting that seemed to erase those who looked too closely? Or the silent festival in the mountains of Japan, where one sound sealed your fate? Only one was fiction. And it was the Silent Festival. A complete fabrication, born from fog, folklore, and fear. But the other 2? They're real. Documented. Archived in case files, news clippings, and declassified reports. Truth is stranger than fiction. One of tonight's stories was an invention. A mirage hidden among real nightmares. Was it the patient stranded in the lighthouse? The haunted room sealed away? Or the song that drifts from forgotten waters? You've heard them all. Now it's your turn. Which truth do you doubt? Which lie will you uncover? Comment your guess below. And in the next episode, the truth will surface. 3 stories. 1 lie. Trust your gut.